welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com. What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined every single Friday by my main man, Derek the Kid Bell. Find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalk or anywhere you get your podcasts. And today, we're talking a little disrespect for the Steelers secondary. Maybe? Question mark? Big question mark, I feel. Also, we're going to get the final assessment here of Deontay Johnson because Derek Bell knows all. And on top of that, talk about some things that we're excited about, things we're worried about heading into training camp. But first, Derek, it's 9 billion degrees in Pittsburgh. I'm sure it's even warmer there. You just went for a 14-mile run. Ridiculous. I'm over the working out thing, dude. I went for 1 week. I'm already exhausted. I don't know how you're doing this. How you feel, my friend?
Ready to talk some football, man. Yeah, it's a hot day, man. But good news is it's Friday.
It is Friday.
Week's coming to an end. The weekend's upon us. Holiday weekend. A lot of people gonna be off work on Monday, right?
Oh, President's Day. Yeah. True.
So,
4th of July.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought President's Day.
I'm ready to spend some time by the pool, man. I'm trying to get my swim on. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend, man. We really close. So
yeah, I feel that one. I'm going to a Pirates game tonight. Gonna go watch O'Neal Cruz and hopefully hit some home runs. I don't know. I'm just excited to see somebody who's 6'7" on a baseball field. I don't know what that looks
massive.
like.
Dude,
massive. Like, I don't understand why nobody. He's 23 years old. Nobody in 23 years was like, "Yo, bro, you should go play basketball. You'd be pretty good at that."
Right.
you'd be. I don't know if you've seen what basketball contracts are these days, but they're pretty all right to go play basketball. Would have been all right. But all right, let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. In the last week or so, the Steelers secondary has been excited, or has been. Sorry, I'm reading comments about how excited Susan is to go see Cruz. Shout it out, Susan. The Steelers secondary has been targeted twice about their lack of excitement, their lack of talent, I guess, overall. Maybe it's justified, maybe it's not. I want to talk about it a little bit. PFF has them ranked 28th in the NFL overall. That's their entire secondary, not just their cornerbacks. And then on top of that, I believe it was last week, the 33rd team dropped 7 tiers, all of their cornerback rankings, their duos. They picked Levi Wallace and Akello Witherspoon, put them in tier 6, which was the second last tier. Said they had a true CB2, and then a big question mark next to him. As you said before the show, they said Akello Witherspoon just doesn't seem to be healthy. I don't know where that came from. Akello Witherspoon seemed pretty healthy to me last season. But that's all right. Is it justified how much slack the Steelers secondary has been getting this offseason?
I mean, I think first off, the let's address the cornerback duo rankings first off. So, like, what are we going off of is my question, like, with those. Because, I mean, there was guys that included, there was rookie tandems, there was some question marks above Wallace and Witherspoon. Wallace and Witherspoon both played good ball last year. Like, neither one of them are cornerback ones, but, like, last year they both played, like, starting caliber boundary cornerbacks. So, like, to me, I thought Akello, after he got put in the starter lineup, again, it's a small sample size because you only have like 6-7 starts, but he was fantastic. I mean, he was better than cornerback 2. I'm just adjusting for regression to the mean because I don't know that he's gonna be like that. I mean, this dude literally had like 11 passer rating or something like that when targeted. I mean, quarterbacks were better off spiking the ball than they were throwing in his direction last year.
Yeah.
So. And then Wallace, like, I mean, I know that he was surrounded, Buffalo's got the thing with Levi, Buffalo surrounded him with hyper athletic players. Like, Buffalo has probably the best safety tandem in the league with Poyer and Hyde. And then they've got really athletic linebackers in Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano. So that speed kind of does cover up some of his weaknesses because he's not the most athletic guy. But at the same time, like, he was another guy who played extremely well. Like, I'm pretty sure that he was, like, in terms of, like, yards per target or something like that, he was like 7th in the National Football League last year. I mean, he had a good year last year. I don't think either one of those guys are stars necessarily, but like putting them in a 6 tier out of 7 and not even at least saying that those two guys are average or close to average for a starting duo, I think that's a little bit disrespect. I don't know how you feel about that. But.
No, I agree with that one. And I looked at it. There's the tier above them is where I get, you know what I mean? Because tier 5, first off, they don't have like a thing at the top that says this is how we graded each one. They just break every tier up and explain that tier. So tier 6 is a high-end CB2 with a question mark lining up across from them. Tier 5 is grouping 2 CB2s who could compete and play like CB1s on their best day. Okay? You just said that Ahkello Witherspoon could easily be a CB. I think the Steelers are banking on him to be a CB1 this season. Levi Wallace, I don't know. I got to see him. I don't watch a lot of Buffalo Bills tape. But the people in tier 5 is what gets me, because Awuzie and Eli Apple are sitting there in tier 5 like Eli Apple's a CB1. Like Awuzie, yeah, at one point in his career was. I don't think he still is. I think the names are what's holding them back more than anything. You know, most people before Levi Wallace came to Pittsburgh didn't know who Levi Wallace was. Ahkello Witherspoon, same thing. And his track record before that, I feel, was not great. That's going to carry. But just judging off of where they are right now and the situation that the Steelers are in, I mean, dude, the Steelers cornerback setup right now, in my opinion, is better than it's been in quite some time. Since the Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson year, like just the first year. The second year was but that first year where they had a really solid cornerback group, I think that's what this is. A bunch of guys who could compete really well, who are reliable. And if they don't turn the ball over, Minkah's going to come up with something that could be enough. I mean, I don't know. That's how I've looked at the whole thing. I just don't think, I don't know. CB2 is what I label them. I get that. But if you have a group of CB2s, isn't that just good enough?
I mean, it's good enough when you've got a dominant pass rush, and like that's what the Steelers are banking on having. I mean, you look at the money that they're allocating towards TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. You know, you draft Alex Highsmith. They, brought in Larry Ogunjobi. Like they're banking on that pass rush being kind of the anchor to that pass defense, not the secondary. But just running through some numbers here. I mean, Sis has Ahkello with a 23.5 quarterback rating against, and Levi with a 61.9, quarterback rating when targeted. That 23.5 also includes that touchdown that Henry Ruggs scored in week 2, the home opener. But like that wasn't his fault. The Steelers put him in bad position. He's off coverage, outside leverage, and his safety leaves him out to dry.
I was going to say, Minkah was open about how that was his fault.
Yes. I mean, if your safety leaves you out to dry like that, you're going to get burnt by anybody who runs, the way that Henry Ruggs or guys like that can run. So I'm not too awful worried about it. I mean, I do think it's a little bit disrespectful, but I think just because the Steelers were so lackluster really on defense last year and offense really, I just don't think that the national media or like many people got to see what Ahkello especially really did. So I'm excited for that. I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. But
yeah, no doubt. What's your takeaway on PFF saying the secondary as a whole is 28th? That one's the one that got me. I could see the argument for the cornerbacks, but Minkah Fitzpatrick's the highest paid safety in the NFL for a reason. Like the Steelers weren't just like, yeah, we like this guy, we're going to give him a lot of money. Terrell Edmunds is, I mean, you can say whatever you want. He's not terrible. He's not a bad safety. If used properly, he's just fine. I don't know. That one was rough.
So my thoughts on PFF are pretty well documented. Once they changed, like 6-7 years ago, whenever they changed their grading scale, and now it's like arbitrary, and they don't really share like why or how they grade.
That's because there's nothing to that. Did you see? There was an interview on The Fan, so you wouldn't have saw it. A couple of a couple of weeks ago, where PFF Brad was on there, and he was like, "Yeah, man, some people just go rogue." I'm like, "What do you mean some people? This is how people make livings off of your grading systems, and you're telling me people just go rogue?"
I really don't think I don't know. I mean, there's much debate depending on who you ask about how much that plays into like, do players use it for contracts? Do teams use it for contracts? I don't know. I don't know what's true, what's not. I've talked to agents that say that, it's never came up ever. And then I've talked to some that say, it does come up depending on the team. But
That's right. Yeah. Somebody
I'll just
somewhere
say
is gonna
this.
take
I
the lead.
mean, Minkah, they graded him as a 59.8 last year overall, which is like below average. I mean, I don't know how you
PFF did?
could, yeah. I
Are
don't
you
know out of
kidding me?
100, yeah. So like, I don't know how you watch. Now, I was critical. I mean, Steeler fans are getting on me because I was critical about Minkah's tackling the first like 8 or 9 weeks of the season. And I was just talking about his tackling. He was fine everywhere else. He was just missing too many tackles. The last like 7 or really starting at that Chicago game. That Chicago game, from that point forward, Minkah was the same exact dude that he was the first 2 seasons in terms of like being a sure tackler, awesome in coverage. I mean, you really have to look at the film to really understand Minkah's range and what he does for that defense. I mean, very few people can cover as much ground as he has. I tweeted the other day because I was watching some stuff from last year. I think the AFC North has 3 of the 5 most like rangiest safeties in the league, like with Bates, Fitzpatrick, and Marcus Williams. I mean, it's incredible how the defenses are going to rely on that range so much and what it does for your defense. I was even watching that Chiefs game, man. Like some of the plays that he was preventing was just crazy. And you talk about kind of what Buffalo was able to do to hide some of Levi Wallace's like deficiencies in terms of athleticism. Minkah can do some of those same things in terms of like, keeping a lid on top of those explosive plays. So I think that Minkah alone makes that ranking to me just ridiculous. I want to see what they rate. See, this is the thing. I really don't pay attention to PFF.
No, so like, I caught the screenshot on Twitter.
There are stats that they have that I think are useful, but I don't pay for the subscription, and I just don't think grades are that valuable. That's just my opinion. But like I know we have some people probably even in here that have PFF subs, and I'm not telling you to cancel them.
Don't cancel PFF. Take it with a grain of salt. That's what I say to everything.
It's a resource.
It's a resource. People use it, and sometimes they utilize it well. Take it with a grain of salt.
Just don't use it as the gospel. That's all I'm asking.
No. Nothing in football should be the gospel. Nothing in football should be the gospel. But things that have opinions behind them, most certainly should not be the gospel. Ever. When it comes to Minkah, 100% agreed. I mean, it's really hard to compare like the Steelers of Troy to the Steelers now because there's just so much going on. But just looking at that secondary, and you might know better than anybody, dude. Like Ike Taylor was a beast. And if he could catch the football,
shout out 24.
Might have been like the third greatest. He still might be, but like if he could catch the football, he might have been in talks for the greatest corner in Steelers history. He would have been really up there. But he wasn't an athletic freak. Like the dude just could keep up with you all the time. He knew how to play a wide receiver better than anybody in football, and he was physical. Troy Polamalu was the dude running all over the field making plays. The rest of that defense was just hitting people, and then every year it was either Brian McFadden or some other random dude playing corner. That's how they live and breathe. You get a good safety, changes the whole game.
They haven't had somebody like Ike in a long time. Like more than, I mean, Steven Nelson had his 1 year. I mean, Joe Hayden was solid, but they haven't had that true number one, like shut down corner. And like Ike was able to do it for such a long time. Like when he came in, he's really athletic, but I mean, you don't see many guys like even like his last year in the league, last 2 years, 32, 33 years old. What they were asking him to do in like 2013, 2014, even like they were still asking him to follow number one receivers at 32, 33. You just don't see that anymore. The game's changed a lot. But so that's my thing. Like I will say that, do I wish the Steelers had that true number one corner, especially in a division where you've got to go against Cincinnati at least twice a year? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Yeah, I mean, I wish you could have that. But I mean, every team or every fan base or every media outlet is going to say, like, we all have wish lists. You know, that's why we have an off season. That's why we do draft coverage, because we talk about, hey, if we do this, like we could get a lot better. Every team has weaknesses, but I don't necessarily look at the Steelers secondary as a weakness. I mean, I'm thinking if you're just going off based off of what we saw last season, inside linebacker to me is way more of a weakness than secondary. We had guys, Minkah, Levi, Akilo, all had stretches last year where they played great football. Miles Jack and Devin Bush were terrible last year. So, like, if we're talking about weaknesses or needing bounce backs, but I think that's what it is, man. I think, more people in the national media or that don't cover the Steelers every day, don't do Steelers work every day. They see the names, like you said. They see Devin Bush and they think like, oh, first round pick, Miles Jack, he's been a guy around the league for a long time. So I think that just that conversation just needs to be steered a different direction. But I don't really necessarily worry about the secondary as long as the pass rush is dominant.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the Steelers have a plan in place. Their plan is when it comes to the CB1, and everybody's going to continue to talk about how you need a true number one corner. The Pittsburgh Steelers right now are looking at Ahkello Witherspoon saying, we're banking on this guy to be a true number one corner. And he's young enough and he's athletic enough to easily be that guy. It's just about turning into that guy. So they have that plan in place. It's just about seeing if it actually comes to fruition. All right, let's talk about real quick before we get into our final thing here. Deontay Johnson, real quick. I told everybody all week long I had to ask you about it. I told everybody all week long I was going to do it. There's an argument, and it has been spewed all throughout our comments, and I'm all about it. Bring the arguments. I'm all about that life. Deontay Johnson is not worth top money because he is not a deep threat, quote unquote, not a deep threat. Lots of comments about that. Tons, actually. Been blowing up our YouTube. And again, I'm all about that. You would know, again, better than anybody. Is Deontay Johnson not a deep threat? I'm not going to ask you if he is. Is he not a deep threat?
I think you got to understand, like, different guys and different skill sets are going to get it done different ways. Like, is Diontae a Mike Wallace straight line speed burner? No. But can Diontae beat guys deep? Yeah, I mean, we've seen him beat guys deep. He got Jair Alexander last year. He got Kyle Fuller. He got Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller can't run. I have no idea why Baltimore signed him, but we'll talk about that more when the season comes around. Because I'm telling you, if they put that man on Diontae, he gonna barbecue chicken that boy. But no, I mean, different guys get it done different ways. Diontae, and obviously different types of receivers. We were talking about this before the show, but like Devontae Adams is a guy who's not like extremely fast in a straight line, but he's an excellent route runner. And the reason is because like he's one of the best at varying his pace, and he can kind of manipulate defenders in that regard. Diontae can do some of the same things. Like he understands how to like vary his stride length, vary his pace, and that keeps corners off balance, especially like with him being able to cut on a dime like he can and get in and out of breaks in like 1 to 2 steps. Corners have to be like hyper aware of like breaking on the football. So I don't know where it was last year. I'm guessing, I think some of the offensive line deficiencies with them not being able to like pass protect for very long and the quick passing game to kind of negate that. I think that has a factor in them not running many double moves with him. But like we saw him beat William Jackson a couple years ago with a double move. He can do that all day long. It's just more about, can they give him the opportunity? I didn't really see much of that last year. It was just like kind of like straight line Burts. That's really not his game. I mean, that's not what they're going to pay him to do. I mean, they're paying him because he's a route runner.
Do you pay
or whoever gets him? Whoever gets him.
Do you pay a route runner $20+ million?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Anybody? I've said this like 5 billion times, but anybody who routinely beats press coverage and can separate like he can, I'm paying him all day long because that's what it's about. I mean, it's really a no-brainer to me. My rules for paying are like paying number one receivers is can they beat press and can they get open? Like, can they separate? They can do those two things. Like, I'm all about it. So I think yeah, he just needs to be a little more consistent, especially late in the season. But I have no qualms with that at all.
All right, we won't stay on this too long. Connor's got a question. Could they give Diontae a 3-year deal like Terry McLaurin? See that in the works? Terry's was weird. It was kind of out in left field, I feel. It was a good deal. It was right where it needed to be. But the 3 years did throw me off.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
A lot of guaranteed money.
Yeah, I would think that Terry was an old rookie, though. So you got to take that into account. Like, he was an older rookie. He was a 24-year-old rookie.
Well, Deontay's was an old rookie. Deontay's 26.
Yeah, but he's a year younger than Terry is.
Yeah, Terry's 27. Yeah. Wow, that is
rookie. Yeah, their birthdays are both coming up. But yeah, no, I mean, that's probably plays a little bit into it. Was Washington scared of giving him that 4th year, that 5th year? Maybe it was about term for them, seeing how he was going to age. Ideally, you don't want to. I mean, ideally, receivers after 30, you don't see a ton of them getting big money like that, especially guys with Terry's size. Now, Diontae, could they get him for 3 years? $23 million a pop. I don't think it's a bad deal for either side. If I'm Diontae,
$23 million's a lot.
Yeah, if I'm Diontae though, I'm not taking that. I wouldn't.
You're going more?
It just depends. It just depends.
Or you're going a higher year.
If you're playing for the most money, I wouldn't take it. But if you're playing because you want to play in Pittsburgh and they offered you that, then I don't think that's a bad deal.
What do you think Diontae gets next year? If he hits the open market,
he getting 20. He getting over 20. Oh, if he gets the open market next year,
dude, he's 26, 25 mil. Probably.
Yeah, it'll be 23 plus if he hits the open market. Somebody will pay him.
Yeah, crazy.
I don't know what the guarantee structure will be, but it'll be 20, 23, 24, 25.
Yearly it's going to be just about 25 mil. It's going to be crazy. What were you meaning though by the 23? You wouldn't take the 23 if you were Diontae.
I wouldn't take a 3-year deal. It's different from me, my perspective, and again, everybody's different. It's just a matter of opinion. But if I'm a 3rd round pick, Deontay's made a little bit of money because he made the Pro Bowl, and there's some escalators in your rookie contract that if you make a Pro Bowl or All-Pro team, you make a little bit more money. But Deontay was a 3rd round pick. Like, this isn't a dude who's made a ton of money so far. So, like, for me, the difference in 3 and 4 years, I mean, depending on how the contract's structured, how much of that's guaranteed, I mean, that's generational wealth. So I'm not going to throw that away, when you can have one injury. I know a lot of people see the pros and cons for both. If he takes a 3-year deal, he could hit the open market again at 29, and maybe he gets another bag. I don't know. But for me, when you're not a 1st round pick and, you kind of get to that point where you're about to get paid, I'd take the sure thing. But that's just my opinion. I'm also cheap and scared of losing money. So
no, I agree with that one on both fronts. Diontae, I think I've said this on here before, but Diontae is set to make less money this season than Jordan Addison, which is nuts. So We'll see. All right. I got a couple of questions here for you. Finish off the show. None of them are about Deontay Johnson or the quarterbacks. So you're welcome.
Thank God.
You're welcome. We'll get to those. All right. You look at the whole Steelers team, and we talked about this earlier. In the upcoming weeks, we're going to break down a lot of the positions. Cornerback, inside linebacker, defensive line, offense, anything and everything as we head into training camp. Hold up. Dude, greetings from Germany. Shout out my guy here.
Hey, man.
We're pausing everything. We'll get there. We'll get to my stuff here. First, we got to answer my man's question because the dude, I don't know what time it is in Germany, but we appreciate you.
That's fire.
That's fire. RB2. Right now, it's Benny Snell. Did you see Justin Jackson, though? Did you see the thought of Justin Jackson? I think Bleacher Report put it out there today. I think that's becoming a very promising name for the Steelers. I don't think it's going to happen, but it makes a lot of sense.
I agree that we should be talking about running back too. And Justin Jackson, he can move a little bit. He's pretty shifty. I couldn't give you like a full scouting report on him because I haven't watched him a lot. But I mean, I'm about it. I'm about upgrading RB2. Even listening to Mike Tomlin like the other day, he said, Najee's gonna be the bell cow. So like, to me, it seems like this is going to be one of those talking points where we're going to talk about it all summer. And then it's going to be the same thing. Najee's going to get 85, 90% of the snaps. And then Benny Snell going to get a couple carries a game. And we're going to complain about every time he touches the ball. And then he'll keep playing special teams. And then next year in the summer, we're going to be doing mock drafts. We're going to be mock drafting like random running backs on day 3. And then they're either going to take one late or they're not going to take one at all. And guess what? They still not going to play them. So until, like, for me, honestly, man, like, until a Tomlin coach team proves that they are willing to use a running back too, to me, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Put Benny back there, put McLaurin, anybody, whoever it is. Would I like an upgrade? I absolutely agree. I just don't trust that they're actually going to make that change. I think we're going to see Najee 85, 88% of the snaps again.
Yep, I agree. The second that I was watching the pivot and he said the word bell cow, it was like a little PTSD. Like, I was just like, stop. Like, I cringed. I was like, somebody tell him that word's obsolete. That doesn't happen anymore. Not in the NFL.
And I want all of y'all that are in here and Noah, I want y'all to remember, because we did the same dog and pony show last year. Look, when we're in December, January football next year, y'all are going to be in these comments asking like, man, like Najee looks worn down. Like, why is Najee hurt? Why is he banged up? Is Najee going to play Sunday? Remember this conversation, and this is the reason why, because every time the Steelers get towards the playoffs, the running backs ain't healthy because they're running them into the ground the first 3 months of the season.
Yeah, it's terrible. If I'm Najee Harris, there's not enough yoga you could do to prevent the damage that his body's going to take in the 4 years that he's in Pittsburgh. It's bad. All right. Couple of questions here about the entire team. Look at this. We'll go both sides. I want one for offense, one for defense. And it could be a player, position group, whatever. What are you most excited about heading into training camp?
Oh, man. Like, are we talking about us watching, or are we talking about just like from a team perspective?
Team perspective.
Okay. I mean, dude, honestly, like, I'm excited to see Akilo in year 2. I just am. I'm excited. I'm intrigued to see if he can carry over what he did last year. You know, I feel like I've kind of banged that drum enough over the last, 6-7 months about how well he played. I'm excited to see if he can, sustain it. I mean, I've seen these flashes before, so I don't want to get my hopes up. But at the same time, like, I'm really excited about seeing him in year 2 and how he fits in this defense. And I really want to see him against Cincinnati, because he didn't play really against them last year. I want to see if that makes a difference. I'm not sure if he's enough to slow them down, but like, I'm excited to see that matchup with him and Chase on offense. I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I actually think we have to answer this. I think this is like timed. Somebody just paid us for a question. Shout out this D-Rock Dent. This has never happened before. But why is the search for a number 2 running back so difficult for the Steelers, or are they just taking their time? First off, we appreciate this. This is awesome. This is a record. This is I don't know what this is, a milestone in the podcast, maybe.
Facts. No, I mean, dude, I think, like I said, man, I think it's just a philosophy thing. I don't think it's necessarily a search thing. I mean, because we've seen the running back 2 market isn't expensive. Like, I mean, I think it's less expensive now than it was 2-3 years ago. I mean, backup running backs, I mean, we talked about it last week. I mean, Latavius Murray, we went through his cap hits. His cap hits every year are like 1 million, 2 million, 2 million. And the dude goes and he rambles off, for over 4 yards of carry, and he's like super reliable whenever the running back goes down. He does it every year. And so it's like, it's not hard to find these guys. I mean, a lot of orgs can find complimentary running backs on day 3. The Steelers haven't been that successful. So I think, in my opinion, I just think it's something that they don't really prioritize because they're so hyper focused on getting that number 1 running back, Najee, Lev, guys like that, and just running them really into the ground because they don't want to take them off the field. And maybe that's the Steelers justifying picking Najee in the first round. Maybe that's why they wanted him, because they knew that they could do that. He could handle that workload. I just don't particularly think that's smart because I've seen it time and time and again, especially in Pittsburgh. There's just no other NFL team that's running their backs into the ground like that. Najee played like 10% more snaps than any other running back in the league. So to me, I think it's just a philosophy thing more than like a difficulty finding one or a search or anything like that. They really haven't tried, in my opinion.
No, they haven't tried. And even when they did try, they were very lackadaisical in those efforts. Outside of Benny Snell, who I think Mike Tomlin had much higher hopes for coming into the NFL, and Anthony McFarland, which I kind of think was just he went to Maryland, Tomlin saw some flashes, made a move during COVID, which I didn't really think was the best move. Their efforts have been really poor. They're there. They're finding guys in the 6th round, 7th round, but all throughout Tomlin's career, it's just guys that right from the jump are not going to do anything. And they shove them in there. They try to make them an RB2. It doesn't work out, and then they head into the season. I think this is the first time in Tomlin's career where outside of D'Angelo Williams, this is being questioned like this. It used to be, why isn't D'Angelo running the football? Why aren't we giving D'Angelo touches? Why is he spending all this time on the sideline? And it was the eye-opening to all of this. Now it's, why aren't they even trying? Why are they just giving up? And I think that's because Tomlin dealt with that when it came to D'Angelo Williams. He saw that everybody knew what was going on, felt like maybe he didn't want to deal with that again. And he's just kind of said, all right, well, we'll rock with true RB2s and let it work. I think it's Tomlin. I think the whole thing's been Tomlin. It's his philosophy, like you said, but it's not a good one.
I did want to get to where was this comment? Let me see. Oh, this one from Connor. Hey man, we've talked about Latavius Murray before he signed. Just using him as an example, but Alex Collins, man, he got a phenomenal story in terms of being cut, let go 500 times before he made the league. It is kind of interesting though. Normally when the Steelers do sign free agents from outside, it's usually players that have played really well against them. That's just, I don't know if that's an NFL thing or if that's just a Steelers thing. But I do think, Alex Collins might make some sense in that regard because Collins, every time he has played the Steelers, he played well. I'm just looking at his I just looked up his splits because I was like, dude, Collins, I feel like he got to be like one of the biggest nemesis for us. 67 carries, 380 yards, 5.67 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns in five games. I mean, you talk about a guy that, I don't know. I think he was hurt last year, so I'm not really sure what his health is like. So that's always, a factor in that. So I can't really speak on that. But
obviously, but that's what you're looking for. That's what I think the biggest thing with Benny Snell, and I think Benny Snell is a quality running back in the areas that he's good at. The biggest thing with Benny Snell is he's very open, and the team is very open about how he needs an entire game to get going. You don't need somebody as an RB2 who needs a game to get going. You need somebody who could jump in here, run the ball 6 times, and in those 6 times, maybe break one off. That's what you need. You need a guy that if it ends up he has to start 3 games for some reason, he could come up with quality enough snaps, 5.7 yards a carry, with no time to rev himself up. And I don't think that's what the Steelers have. I think that's their issue. You know what I mean? If you're going to run somebody into the ground, just playing off the Steelers' philosophy, if you're going to run somebody into the ground, you might as well have a backup that when he's called upon, he could go make something happen, because once the playoffs come around and Benny Snell Jr. is touching the ball 16 times a game and he's getting 70 yards, you're not feeling real good about it. And I think that's their issue.
Yeah.
All right. Wish we had more answers on the Steelers running back. It's unfortunate. It's something to watch, though.
Yeah.
All right, back to your stuff. You're talking Witherspoon. Connor's got another question. Does Witherspoon follow the wide receiver 1 around the field?
I don't know that he will do that. I mean, they haven't asked at corner to do that since Ike retired. So I don't know. I don't even know if that's a philosophy thing anymore for Tomlin and them. I mean, they've switched coordinators multiple times since then too. So I couldn't really tell you. Do I think he has the ability to follow Jamar around? I mean, he's the best option. I don't
I
know
was gonna
that.
say,
I don't
I don't
know.
know about the ability,
I
but he's
did.
there.
I did watch a game of his. I'm thinking it was DK's maybe second year in the league. Akilo did follow him for a little bit, but that was in San Fran. So like that's a different scheme, different system. So I don't know. The Steelers are also going to be like real zone heavy, in my opinion. I think they're going to be super zone heavy this year. I think like probably top 10 in the league in zone percentage. So that's just my opinion. But
Dude, think about it the other way. What are they going to do? They're going to play man. They're going to
yeah,
line
like I
Levi
don't.
Wallace and Cam Sutton up against Jamar Chase. Is that going to?
Yeah,
That's the
especially
option.
against Cincinnati. I just don't see them being able to go man to man, 80% of the snaps. They did. I think the splits would be interesting to look at because I do think they played a little more man when Akilo got in the lineup. But, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Akilo doesn't really have a lot of experience in the slot though. So like, if you're talking about true guys that are following around the field, you kind of have to include that because teams are moving their number one receivers into the slot more nowadays than they really ever have. So that would be the biggest question mark in my opinion.
All right, offensive side of the ball. What are you most excited for?
I'm gonna say Pat's development. I mean, Pat. I'm excited about Pat. Really in year
pass
2
development. It took me a second to get Pat, and I was like,
nah,
pass development.
I'm excited.
Really?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm excited for, but I mean, I think Pat's development is going to be really interesting because when you look at Trubisky and like when he had some success in Chicago, and again, like take it with a grain of salt. I know that was a while ago, but play action and under center stuff. And I think that Pat could be used a little bit more in that regard, especially over the middle of the field where they really couldn't move the ball last season. So I'm interested to see if he's able to get a connection with Mitch in that regard. I also want to see like if they can use him down the field a little bit more. Like even at Penn State, because of the quarterback situation, he really didn't create a ton of explosive plays down the field. I don't think Pat's a great athlete, but I think he's a solid one. So I think he can be used a little more in that regard to stretch the seams. So I want to see if they're more willing to do that this year. But again, I think a lot of that depends on the offensive line, giving whoever's at quarterback enough time to, kind of push the ball down the field a little bit more.
Word. All right. And then offensive, defensive side of the ball. You're gonna shock you, guy, heading into training camp. And if you need, I feel like I tossed this one out at you without any preparation. So we'll probably rehash this. But off the top of your head.
Are we're just going like who I think could surprise? I mean,
yeah. Right?
Is Leal too easy of an answer for a defense?
No, I don't think a lot of people would have thought Leal.
I think for me, in terms of just ability, like if you're looking for a guy who's not going to be penciled in as a starter to kind of be a guy who, comes along quicker or takes a major role like late in the season, like I think Leal's there. I mean, I know the defensive line's a little cluttered now with Ogunjobi, Chris Wormley. I just look at Leal's tape at Texas A&M. I mean, he's playing a little bit out of position, too light for he's too heavy for an edge, too light for a 3-tech. But they moved him all around the defensive line. I just look at his ability and like his pass rush repertoire is, I mean, it's serious for a guy that's he's pretty developed in that regard. So I think that, and I'm just super excited to see how he's going to carry this additional like 15 pounds of weight. Like, true. I think if that's good weight and, that's muscle, I think, and he can maintain, some of that twitch or explosiveness that he had. I'm super excited about that. I think he could really become a factor sooner rather than later, even if, the start of the season, he's not really getting any snaps or like maybe not even getting a helmet. Like I still think come December, like he could be a guy that like, it's just too hard to keep him off the field.
Yeah. I'm all about Leal. I think him and Isaiah Loudermilk are going to shock. I feel like I feel like this is a big statement But I feel like they're going to surprise a lot of people this season. I think they'll develop themselves enough to tell people like, hey, you got something here. Let's see what happens. I think those two are where it's at, especially because of the added weight. All right, offensive side of the ball.
I'm sticking with the rookies, man. I'm going with Pickens. That's an easy one in my opinion, but
Pickens is the easy
Pickens,
answer.
Man. I love the tape from his junior year, really from his freshman year too. Like I really did. I thought that dude was more capable, and would have been a lot more productive if he was in a completely different offense. You have to understand that Georgia's a very, very run heavy team, and as a freshman at 18 years old, the kid had like 700 yards and, 7 touchdowns or something like that. So he's been doing it in a major conference for a long time. He didn't look completely healthy to me when he returned last year, but having a full year now off of that ACL, I'm excited. I'm a little bit concerned about how they're going to use him, but in terms of just like from a talent perspective, the he's loaded with talent. I mean, he can do it. Like this kid can be like a really good starting wide receiver at this level, in my opinion. So super, super excited about him.
Yeah, I think that's an obvious answer. I have 2 real quick. Gunnar Olszewski. I don't know what to expect when pads come on, but I'm just like, I cannot emphasize how impressed I was by this guy at minicamp. It was insane. 2, James Daniels. I don't know what to expect from James Daniels, but
he's good.
Yeah, like he seems good, and if they're going to build this offensive line, it's going to start with him. So I think he could change a lot for a lot of what the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to do.
We talked about the defensive line, or like the front 7 for the defense really needing to be the catalyst. Like they're really relying on James Daniels to be a very good player this year. I mean, because like really when you look at their offensive line last year, they didn't have a good player. I mean, they just didn't. They had a bunch. They had a couple average players and like a really, really, really historically bad center. If Daniels even gives them, if Daniels can even give them, good play, like just good. He doesn't need to be a Pro Bowler, but like a legitimately good guard. That's a huge upgrade from what they had last year. I mean, huge. So, but I watched this dude, I don't want to say play extremely well, but like he held his own against Aaron Donald. So like I've seen this dude do it. He's talented enough. He's still young enough to do it. I'm excited about seeing him play. I definitely think he's by far their most talented offensive lineman. It's really about how he's going to look next to, a new center, new right tackle that he's really never played with, obviously. So,
yeah, I agree. And you look back, I mean, Ben's offensive line at the beginning of his career sucked. And
really from most of his career, 2006 to 2013, all terrible.
But once it started to build, it built around, they added Marquise Pouncey, and that was the beginning of the entire change. And I think James Daniels could be that piece. He's 24 years old, right? Plenty of career left. I think that could be the shift that they need. I think a lot of people hope that was Kevin Dotson, and Kevin Dotson's still around, so we don't know. But I would say James Daniels is going to be a dude that I have my eyes on a lot. All right, we appreciate everybody for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk, all the way from Germany. Shout out my dude out in Germany, former DB. If you didn't catch that in the comments, that's awesome. We appreciate you. We appreciate everybody who jumps on every week. We will be back on Tuesday. Enjoy the heat. If you're headed to the Pirates games this weekend, enjoy that as well. Give O'Neal Cruz a high five and make sure you get your vertical in there. We'll be back on Tuesday. Peace.